The shuttle drifted like a speck of light against the endless black. Its passengers, merchants, students, families, sat in weary silence, lulled by the hum of engines and the faint glow of cabin lamps. Elara Kane pressed her forehead against the viewport, studying the scattered stars. She was nearly home. Only a few more hours and she would step onto her father's station, where laughter and warmth waited. The illusion shattered with a shriek of alarms. The cabin lights flickered red. Passengers cried out as the vessel jolted violently. Through the window, Elara saw streaks of plasma slash across the void, burning white against the black canvas. The stars vanished behind the angular shadows of warships. The shuttle's pilot shouted over comms, his voice cracking. "Raiders! Skarathi signatures! Brace!" The hull shook as magnetic clamps bit into the shuttle's frame. A metallic roar echoed through the corridors. Elara's stomach dropped. She had read about Skarathi slavers, but seeing their ships up close, the jagged hulls, the cruel symmetry, was worse than any story. The airlock blew. Fire and smoke spilled across the cabin as armored figures stormed through. They were reptilian giants, scales glinting beneath spiked carapace plating. Their eyes glowed a dull amber, and each carried hooked shock staves that crackled with blue current. Passengers screamed. Some tried to run, but the slavers moved with brutal precision, corralling the weak into groups. A man who resisted fell with a whip strike, his body convulsing before going still. Elara's breath caught. Every instinct screamed at her to hide, but she saw a boy crying in the aisle, frozen in terror. She forced her legs to move. Kneeling, she pulled him against her chest, whispering, "Don't look. It'll be over soon. Just breathe." A slaver's shadow fell across her. Its staff hovered inches from her face. Elara raised her chin, meeting its gaze. Her heart pounded, but she didn't move. The creature hissed, baring serrated teeth, then shoved her to her feet and shoved both her and the boy toward the others. They were herded into the docking umbilical, stumbling through smoke and heat into the gaping maw of the raider's ship. The stench of oil, blood, and burned ozone hit her like a wall. The slavers dragged their captives down rust-red corridors, lit by sickly green strips embedded in the walls. Screams echoed in the distance, other victims, other raids. Elara memorized everything, the layout of the corridors, the positioning of guards, the rhythm of their movements. She knew she couldn't fight them, not yet. But observation was survival. They reached a cavernous bay lined with cages stacked 3 levels high. Metal bars shimmered with energy fields, humming faintly. Dozens of beings already filled them, tall insectoid miners with cracked shells, amphibian singers with bruised throats, even humanoid figures with eyes dulled by despair. The captives from the shuttle were shoved into an empty pen. The field sealed behind them with a hiss. Elara helped the boy to sit, brushing soot from his cheeks. "Stay calm. I won't let them take you alone." Her words trembled, but he clung to them anyway. Moments later, silence swept the bay. A heavy door parted, and a new figure entered. He moved differently, slower, more deliberate, like a predator who knew he owned the ground he walked. His scales were darker than the others, his armor trimmed with gold filigree. A crimson cloak trailed behind him, brushing the deck. Vaelker Drez. Elara didn't know his name yet, but she knew his kind, the one who commanded, who profited. He strode along the rows of cages, appraising his new merchandise as if browsing a market stall. When he stopped at Elara's cell, his slit-pupiled eyes lingered on her. "A human," he said, his voice guttural, heavy with disdain. "Rare this far from their nest worlds." He studied her face, the defiance in her posture, the way she didn't shrink back like the others. His mouth curled into a mockery of a smile. "Fragile, soft, but exotic. You'll fetch a high price. Some collectors favor your kind, trophies of the war that burned the Dominion." Elara's pulse spiked at the mention. The Zorati Dominion. Her father's war. She forced her voice steady. "You think you can sell us like cattle?" His grin widened. "I don't think, little human." "I know." He tapped the energy bars. Sparks jumped, and the captives flinched. Defiance fades quickly in the chain. Alara met his gaze. Maybe. Or maybe you've taken something you shouldn't. Her words drew startled glances from nearby captives. Veilker chuckled, amused. Brave words from a child. I'll enjoy watching your spirit break. He moved on, but the exchange lingered. Alara felt eyes on her, alien and human alike. Hope, or at least curiosity, sparked in their weary faces. Hours blurred into a haze of fear and exhaustion. Guards patrolled. The stench of despair thickened. One prisoner, a lanky humanoid with translucent skin, attempted escape, clawing at the bars. A guard electrocuted him without hesitation. His screams rattled the bay, then ended in silence. Alara clenched her fists until her nails bit her palms. She whispered to herself, "Don't break. Don't give them the satisfaction." When her turn for processing came, she was dragged from the cage and shoved into a smaller chamber. The walls glowed with faint glyphs, monitors lining the perimeter. Veilker waited there, perched on a throne-like chair. He gestured lazily. Name. Lineage. Occupation. Alara hesitated. Giving her name meant risk. But refusing would mean worse. She straightened her shoulders. Alara Kane. The words struck the air like a weapon. For the first time, silence fell. Guards stiffened. One muttered in his native tongue, scales rippling with unease. Another glanced at Veilker, fear flashing in his amber eyes. Veilker's smile faltered. His hand tightened on the armrest. Kane? He repeated, testing the sound like it might burn his tongue. Alara's gaze never wavered. Yes. Kane. The chamber seemed smaller now, the air heavier. She could see it in their faces, the recognition, the dread. Her father's name carried weight even here, on the fringes of lawless space. And for the first time since the raid began, Alara allowed herself the faintest smile. The chamber's silence lingered like a taut wire. Alara stood tall under the stares of reptilian guards, her name echoing through their uneasy minds. The Skarathi prided themselves on dominance, but even they could not ignore history written in blood and fire. Veilker leaned forward on his throne, his scaled fingers curling against the armrest. His eyes narrowed, pupils thinning into sharp slits. Kane, he said again, slower this time. The butcher of the Zorati Dominion. The human who toppled an empire thought eternal. Alara didn't flinch. Admiral Joran Kane. My father. The words landed like a hammer. Guards shifted uneasily. One muttered something in their guttural tongue, earning a sharp hiss from Veilker. He raised a hand to silence them, but the doubt in their faces was already spreading. You expect me to believe this? Veilker asked, though his voice betrayed the crack of uncertainty. That the spawn of humanity's warlord travels alone, undefended, aboard a civilian shuttle? Believe it or don't, Alara said evenly. It changes nothing. You've chained the daughter of the man who crushed the Dominion. How long before his fleets find me? The corner of Veilker's mouth twitched, a shadow of hesitation quickly buried beneath arrogance. Bluster. Empty threats. Humans are bold, but not omniscient. No one knows you're here. Alara stepped closer, ignoring the hiss of guards raising their staves. Her eyes locked with his. They'll know. They always know. And when they do, not even the depths of this rotten galaxy will hide you. A hush followed. Veilker broke it with a snarl. Take her back to the cages. Back in the pens, whispers spread like fire. The other captives leaned close, hungry for news. An insectoid with fractured mandibles clicked. Kane, human war hero? You carry his blood? Alara kept her voice low. Yes. And you've all heard the stories of what humans did to the Dominion. A gray-skinned amphibian female leaned forward, her bruised throat rasping. They burned worlds. They broke fleets. They made tyrants beg for mercy. And that was with armies, Alara said. Do you think they'll ignore one girl? My father will tear through the stars to reach me. The captives exchanged glances, hope sparking where despair had lived. Even those too weak to rise listened, their gazes sharpening with a new edge. Elara lowered her voice further, meant only for them. If we stand together, we survive long enough for that help to arrive. Do nothing, and they'll sell us before anyone comes. Elsewhere aboard the Prophet's Fong, Vailker stormed into his private quarters. The chamber was decorated with trophies of flesh and steel, helms from fallen foes, rare gems inlaid in skulls of extinct beasts. Yet his usual satisfaction brought him no comfort. A subordinate entered cautiously, bowing. Lord Captain, if the girl truly is Kane's blood, this is no ordinary cargo. Vailker spun on him, eyes blazing. Do you think I don't know that? Do you think I cannot see what it means? The subordinate hesitated. Perhaps we should release her quietly. Abandon her on a neutral world. No one need know she passed through our hands. Cowardice. Vailker's tail lashed against the floor. Release her? Do you understand what she's worth? The daughter of Kane could fetch a ransom greater than entire colonies. Or perhaps, delivered to humanity's enemies, she could break their morale. The subordinate's frill twitched nervously. Or she could bring their wrath upon us before any profit is made. Vailker raised his clawed hand, and the subordinate fell silent. The captain's mind churned. Risk, reward, ruin, they weighed heavy on his scales. Elara observed the guards more closely over the following hours. They moved with agitation, speaking in hushed tones when they thought captives couldn't hear. Fear rode the air thicker than the stench of oil. The guards' discipline frayed. Their eyes lingered too long on her, like she was a ticking weapon in their midst. The boy she had shielded on the shuttle tugged her sleeve. They're scared of you, he whispered. They're scared of what my name means, Elara corrected softly. That's our advantage. Don't forget it. A shout echoed through the bay. Two guards had fallen into argument, their voices harsh, tails whipping angrily. Elara strained to hear fragments. Too dangerous, Prophet, human fleets. Their words dissolved into snarls until one shoved the other against the wall. Only the arrival of a superior ended the quarrel. The captives exchanged glances. The slavers' unity was cracking. Later, Vailker returned to the holding bay, his cloak trailing like spilled blood. He studied Elara through the bars, his expression colder than before. You think your father's name protects you, he said. But names are fragile things. They can be bought, traded, erased. Perhaps I should end yours before it spreads further. Elara met his gaze without blinking. Kill me, and you'll guarantee his vengeance. Keep me alive, and maybe, you'll have a bargaining chip. But you won't dare harm me, and we both know it. His jaw clenched. She had struck the truth, and they both felt it. With a growl, he turned and strode away. That night, if such a word meant anything in the endless dark of space, Elara lay against the cold deck plating, sleep refusing to come. She remembered her father's face, the stern, unyielding admiral who carried war in his eyes yet softened when he looked at her. His lessons echoed now, fear is their weapon. Deny them that, and you steal their strength. She whispered it to herself until the words felt real. Around her, the captives stirred restlessly. Some whispered prayers, others curses. But when their eyes drifted to her, she saw something new, expectation. As if she, unarmed and chained, had already become their anchor. She didn't ask for it. She wasn't ready for it. But she couldn't turn from it either. By the next cycle, rumors had reached beyond the guard ranks. A trader docked briefly with the Prophet's Fong, and whispers spread among his crew before Vailker silenced them with threats. But whispers had wings in lawless space. Rivals and predators scented opportunity. Elara noticed the shift immediately. The guards were harsher now, discipline forced to cover unease. Vailker's visits grew shorter, his words sharper, his gaze restless. Something had changed. When Elara confronted one of the guards with a steady look and asked, "Afraid of the Kane name?" the alien actually recoiled before snarling a denial. That denial was answer enough. Later, as she pressed her back to the cage wall, the amphibian captive beside her leaned close. You have them rattled. Whatever happens next, girl, you've shaken the slavers. Elara stared through the bars at the restless crew, her mind sharpening. Not enough, she murmured. But it's a start. And deep in the ship's heart, Vailker received a message that froze the spines along his back. Rival slavers were coming. They had heard of Cain's daughter. His ship was no longer a predator. It was prey. The prophet's fang trembled under a thunderous impact. Sirens wailed, scarlet lights pulsing through the corridors. The captives clung to the bars of their cages as the ship pitched violently. Outside, muffled booms rolled through the hull, plasma cannons answering one another in the void. Elara braced herself against the deck. Her pulse quickened, not with fear this time but with certainty. The predators had found their prey. A guard stumbled into the bay, shouting in Skarathi tongue, panic twisting his scaled face. He barked orders, but his words carried desperation rather than command. Another crash shook the vessel, sending him sprawling. Elara seized the moment. She rose, her voice sharp and steady. They're not fighting for you. They're fighting over me. Every head in the cages turned toward her. Alien eyes, human eyes, eyes dulled by despair now sparked with focus. You can wait here and let them trade us like spoils, she continued. Or we can act now, together, and walk free. The insected prisoner clacked his mandibles. The field's unbreakable. Not unbreakable, Elara countered. She had watched the guards for days, memorizing their movements. Each cycle, when they check restraints, they use that panel by the door. The override code is embedded in their staff signatures. If we get one staff, we control the field. The amphibian captive rasped. You're asking us to fight armed slavers with bare hands? No, Elara said. I'm asking you to fight with your will. They already fear us. That's the weapon. When fear spreads, their control crumbles. Another explosion rattled the deck. Sparks fell from the ceiling. The boy from the shuttle whispered, I'll fight. His small voice cut sharper than steel. That was enough. Resolve hardened across the faces of the captives. The chance came quicker than expected. 2 guards stormed in, snapping orders, their tails lashing nervously. One approached the panel, scanning the cages. Elara nodded once to the amphibian woman. As the guard passed, the prisoner slumped forward, feigning collapse. When the guard leaned down to prod her with the staff, Elara and the insected lunged together through the bars. Their hands seized the staff, yanking it into the cage. Sparks bit their skin, but they held on. The guard shrieked, trying to wrench it free. With a guttural roar, the insected snapped the guard's arm. Elara ripped the staff from his grasp. The energy fields flickered. She slammed the staff's head against the panel. The cage bars dissolved in a burst of light. Freedom! The bay erupted. Captives surged out, swarming the second guard before he could react. Claws, fists, and fury tore him down. For the first time, the balance shifted. Elara gripped the stolen staff. The blue current danced along its length, humming with lethal promise. She turned to the others. Move! We take the ship, or we die trying. The corridors of the Prophet's Fang had become a battlefield. Rival slaver vessels hammered it from outside, boarding hooks latching onto the hull. Inside, Vailker's crew fought each other, half loyal, half mutinous. Through the chaos, Elara led her ragtag band. Freed captives armed themselves with scavenged weapons. Each step forward was paid in blood and screams, but their momentum grew. They stormed a junction, ambushing a squad of guards. Elara struck first, her stolen staff cracking against the guard's chest plate. The surge flung him into the wall. The insectoid cleaved another with his claws. The amphibian strangled a third with desperate strength. Elara had never killed before. Yet in that moment, hesitation had no place. These weren't soldiers in uniform. They were chains given flesh. She swung again, her strike fueled not by rage but by necessity. At the ship's command deck, Vailker bellowed orders. The bridge reeked of panic, crews shouting reports of boarders, weapons failing, rival ships circling like sharks. His claws dug grooves into the railing. Hold them back! He roared. This ship is mine! That girl is mine! A trembling officer croaked. Lord Captain, the humans will hear of this. Already whispers. Vailker struck him across the face, sending him sprawling. Humans are not gods. They bleed, they die, as all do. But doubt gnawed at his scales. If Cain's daughter fell into enemy hands, the human's vengeance would be inevitable. He had to keep her, or kill her, before she slipped away. Elara and the freed captives burst into the bridge antechamber, cutting down the last guards. The doors groaned open, revealing Vailker on his dais. His cloak hung ragged, his eyes blazing. He raised his blade staff. You think to overthrow me, girl? You think your father's shadow shields you here? Elara stepped forward, staff humming in her grip. Around her, bruised and battered prisoners stood united. It's not his shadow you fear, she said. It's his blood standing in front of you. Vailker roared and charged. Their weapons clashed, sparks spraying. His strength was monstrous, forcing her back with each blow. Her arms shook, but she held on, using agility where brute force failed. He pressed close, teeth bared. I should kill you now, before your kind come crawling. Elara gritted her teeth. Too late. The bridge shook violently. Every screen flared with new signatures, sleek warships dropping from faster than light, their hulls gleaming with humanity's crest. Human fleet. Outside, the void lit with annihilation. Human cruisers carved through rival slavers, their volleys precise, merciless. Plasma lances split ships apart, scattering debris into the dark. Where the humans struck, resistance ended in fire. On the Prophet's Fawn, crew morale shattered. Many threw down weapons, others fled. Vailker snarled, realizing his dominion was over. He swung again at Elara, desperate, but the insectoid prisoner seized his arm, holding him. Elara thrust her staff into Vailker's chest. The surge of current blasted him across the deck. He fell, armor smoking, breath ragged. Human marines stormed the bridge moments later, rifles raised, visors gleaming. Their leader froze at the sight of Elara standing tall amid the wreckage. His voice cracked with disbelief. Admiral Cain's daughter, alive! Hours later, aboard her father's flagship, Elara sat across from him. Admiral Joran Cain was as she remembered, stern, commanding, yet his gaze softened when it found her. You endured what most soldiers never could, he said quietly. I'm proud of you. Elara looked down at her hands, still marked by burns and bruises. I wasn't strong, father. I was terrified. But I couldn't let them see it. Not once. He nodded. That's strength. Not the absence of fear, but the defiance of it. Silence stretched, heavy with unspoken relief. Finally, Elara whispered, They feared your name. It saved me. His eyes hardened. No, Elara. You saved yourself? But now the galaxy knows. They'll remember that even in chains, a Cain made slavers tremble. As the human fleet departed, the wreckage of slavers' ships burned in their wake. Word would spread faster than light. Tales of a girl who turned her captors against themselves, who stood unbroken until humanity arrived, would ripple through the stars. And in every corner of the galaxy, slavers and tyrants alike would whisper the name with dread. Cain.